Yeah, the sound was working fine. You wanna go, oh, you wanna talk over there? Yeah, now it was working earlier. It said I was signing up for the
Yeah.
Sony thing default.
That one.
Nope. Hold on, it's saying you're connecting to audio. Hold on.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Now try.
What about now?
Stop.
Okay, now, co-host. You probably would have had to send it to him in the beginning. Copy.
I sent it. He does have a link to it. Hey there, I was getting a little nervous.
Hey, can you hear me?
Oh, yes. We've had speaker problems, so everything is turned up like mega loud, so just hang on.
Oh, you're fine.
All right, let me see. I'm trying to, okay, we were having an echo. We're good now. Yay.
That works.
Okay, Lindsay, we have to behave. Sandy's here.
And that's,
Can you guys hear me?
yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, God,
Unfortunately,
I know.
Is it just-
Can you guys see me?
Nope.
oh,
Oh,
thank
thank you, Lord Jesus.
goodness.
There is a God looking after me today.
Hey, Danielle. If you guys will, please go ahead and
Oh.
put your name and organization in the chat. We're copying that and attaching it to the sign-in sheet that's going to be here at the office. Just in case someone comes here, that way we'll have a record of everybody, please.
Stage name or regular name, or I have to still be good. Let's see who's online.
Whomever you're going by today.
Okay.
I understand from Kim from Open Door that Andrea was going to attend for her today. Excuse me.
Did y'all get all of my emails from the weekend?
Yes. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. I didn't do much. Everything sounded good to me though. So,
We labored on Labor Day, I think.
And speaking of overachiever, Lindsay, really? I don't think it's Pat or I, either one that are the overachiever. We're trying to keep up with you, sister.
Yeah, exactly.
oh, I'm now quarantined at home because my son now has COVID.
Ugh.
And so I can't escape it. It is,
I'm so sorry.
and he feels okay. I mean, it's, he's just got a little bit of a headache and he's stuffy but so we're all home, all four of us.
Oh, God.
Wow, I bet that's an interesting time.
I just informed them, I just fed them and I said, y'all can't come out till at least 12:30 because I have meetings.
Again, if everyone could put their, okay, Lindsay, Sandy, and Danielle, Heather, if you'll go ahead and put your name and organization in the chat box, please. We're using it as an attendance sheet. And we're going to give it about 2 more minutes for Open Door to log in or come in. Andrea was supposed to attend in Kim's stead, and then we'll get started.
Hey, I'm going to get more coffee real quick. Don't ask me a question.
Okay, I'm going to warm up mine too. I'll be right back. Lindsay, you're in charge of informing anyone when they get here.
Okay, I can do that.
Two more minutes and we'll get started.
Okay, I'm back. Pat, if I can say this before we get the meeting started. No, can you guys hear me?
Uh-huh.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I would like to take all the credit for trying to be an overachiever, but as y'all know that, with Steve being sick, they have informed us that this week all the paperwork will go to Pittsburgh. And Lindsay, I don't know if you know, but my husband has liver cancer.
Oh, I did
And we
not.
have found, yeah, well, we found a match, so we've been very, very blessed. But they're saying that we are looking at probably the latter end of this month or October, and we will be in Pittsburgh for 2 months.
Okay.
So I am trying to get as much done here because I don't know what every day will bring up there.
Mhm.
And so I will be available. That's one thing. I will be available somehow, some way, because I do know that there'll be a lot of narcotics involved on his end. So, hey, a couple slipping here and there to make him sleep while I get some work done. That's a joke. It's a joke. But sometimes you have to do what you have to do. But yes, y'all keep us in your prayers and all, but I am trying to get a lot of that done. So it's not the last minute, like, Pat. So we're not just panicking.
I appreciate that, Sandy, and you would, it's 10:04. We're gonna go ahead and start it. And in fact, you started off with exactly what I was thinking last night. We have this bidders conference or this TA workshop to talk about the application. But the application's been out now for, a little over 10 days. And a lot of work has already been done by projects and continuums and application committees. So not waiting for this, but we waited to do this conference like we do each year, just to make sure that we've had as much information as we can. And frankly, because it wasn't until just last week that the frequently asked questions and all those other things about this NOFO instead of a NOFA were made available from HUD. So we're going to go ahead and get started and get through. It looks like everybody's put their stuff into the chat. Does not look like Open Doors here. Hopefully they're just running a little late and will join us momentarily.
I'm sorry
Really
to
quick.
interrupt. Does anyone have Andrea's number? I think I'm gonna shoot her email real quick, okay? Can I do that? Is that legit?
You can, I have her number, but I can't get to it because my phone is the camera on Zoom that I may just end up disconnecting if nobody comes here in the office. I could be sitting at my desk, but I'm standing. But
Oh, okay.
um,
I'm gonna
but,
try to get in touch with her on my phone. I'm gonna put it
Okay.
on.
okay. But while you're doing that, Sandy, thank you. We'll go ahead and get started. And I'll just delay for a minute while she's trying to get that. Like I said, your sign in on the chat will serve as a record of attendance because, it is a requirement that everyone who is seeking either a renewal or a new grant attend the conference to get the information the same way, everybody, the same time. We also have an intent to apply that I will be sending out either virtually. Actually, you can put in the chat your intent to apply as we conclude this when we go over that. Or if someone comes in here, they would sign that as well. So we're going to go ahead and get started. That may be Andrea coming to the door, so hang on one second. Go ahead and sign it for me, baby. Take your time. Okay, Andrea's here. She's signing in on the sheet, so let's give her a second. And then we'll be on to go. And Sandy, in the view I'm in for these slide presentations, I cannot see the chat, so I'm going to leave it to you to monitor the chat for me.
Okay.
Have a seat anywhere you'd like, ma'am.
Hi, Andrea.
They can all see you.
Hey, Andrea.
Hold on, I'll stop sharing real quick so everybody can see each other. Or maybe I can't. I'm not gonna go there. We'll say hi later. Don't make me mess up my thing. Took me too long to figure it out.
Hey, Pat, while I'm thinking about it, when Sandy's out or if she needs me to help do anything, I'm happy to do it. Just let me
Oh, I
know.
love you, Lindsay. Thank you.
Thanks.
I'm happy to do whatever.
And as of today, Denise in our office too, who of course, you know, is always served on the application committee, she will have access to eSnaps as well, Sandy. So,
Oh, perfect.
yep. She's gonna be our editor in chief.
Yes, that makes me feel a lot better.
We'll get it done. You worry about your family and what you need to do. We'll make sure it happens.
All right, let's get it moving. Again, this
Y'all
is
don't
being
make me
recorded.
cry before this meeting starts. I'm muting myself.
Okay. And a lot of this that we have it here is simply because we need to say it each time we have a bidders conference about what a continuum of care is and a little bit about the competition. Then we'll get into how much money is available, what the application process this year is going to look like, what are the priorities, scoring, and the deadlines. So of course, continuum of care is the federal program that brings a community-wide response to ending homelessness in a community. So, you know, I'm not going to sit here and read all of this to you guys, but we're here because part of the continuum care process is to do the yearly continuum of care competition application. And I say competition, and it wasn't until a couple years ago that people actually started listening to this word. It is a competition. We compete internally in our community for ranking based on performance and those kinds of things. But we also then compete with our community, competes against the other 449, because there's 450 communities across the country. And this year, that's actually going to be even more important than ever when it comes to how we're getting our funding and how the ranking and the distribution of funds happens. This continuum of care has several committees. The steering committee, which is the head of the continuum of care board, performance and outcomes, talking about how we perform as agencies and as a community. And in fact, if any of you haven't heard, this afternoon in our monthly housing navigation meeting, Colin Welly from Homebase will be presenting our equity gap analysis and recommendations for our community that Homebase has just done on behalf of the continuum of care. The application committee obviously does the HUD application and looks at priorities and scoring and those things throughout the year to be prepared for this application season. Mainstream and outreach is, yes, goes out visiting and interacting with the clients experiencing sheltered and unsheltered homelessness, but also helps our clients to connect with those mainstream services and benefits, not just food stamps and Medicaid, but employment and those kinds of things. Our HMIS or data committee, talking about the quality of our data and how we use our data to make real decisions. Our coordinated entry committee, which Lindsay heads up and goes into how individuals and families enter our homeless response system. And then of course, our point in time count committee who implements and carries out the point in time count, which happens each year. And you'll see on the screen here, the committee chairs for each of those committees. The board of directors of the continuum of care.
Hey,
We have
Pat, we can't see your
Yes.
screen. We can't see your screen.
Okay, hold on one second.
Now we can.
Okay, let me go back a couple then. Okay, board of directors, we good here?
Yep.
Yes.
All right. Board of Directors, we have representation from both sides of the river. As you know, Columbus, or the Georgia 505 represents Muskogee in Georgia and Russell County in Alabama. One of only 3 continuums of care across the country who cross state lines. But we've really been tenacious in the last couple of years in making sure that we have representation from both sides of the river. Housing authorities, local governments on both sides of the river. Last couple of years, we've had landlords join our boards. In fact, I realized that I just didn't put here that Mr. Louis is actually the vice chair this year of our Continuum of Care Board. We've had Dr. Gloria Johnson Rogers, who is a medical doctor and a local minister and runs a local nonprofit. So lots of representation. And then we have those who are former clients serving on our board, and in, if not all the committees, striving by the end of this year to have representation of former clients or actual current clients on all of our committees of our Continuum of Care. Lived
Can I say
experience.
Can
Yes.
I say something? Marjolina's last name is Remington.
You know what? You're right. Can
Okay.
you tell what time it was when I was typing this?
But hey, I didn't know, I didn't want to call you, but I knew you'd want to know that. And I and I don't know if it would, if you need to document somewhere on one of these that I actually have, one of my staff members is also a former client, and she
Okay.
is helping me on the applications committee. So we need
Okay,
to,
perfect.
okay.
Yes, we will go, when we go forward.
Okay,
You'll go
just-
ahead and make that note. Yes.
okay.
Oh, this is not. Okay, I don't know what happened, apparently. Okay, there are 450 continuums of care, like I said, throughout the country. We're one of 3. All the COCs scores are based on performance and engagement, da, da, da. Again, like I said, the higher the score, the better the funding for the community. The general rule is, and as I'll say now, and I'll say time and time and time again, read the notice. It will explain why we ask a lot of the questions we ask and why we do a lot of the things we do, not only this time of the year, but all year long. Competition is not a three-month period. It literally is something we have to focus on every day, because it's not, oh, let us say we do it. We are documenting what we're doing and then reporting it during the competition. But scoring for a community, if the community scores at or above the median score across the nation, you are pretty much safe in all your funding. When you start slipping below that median, that's when you have money that's at risk. This year, the way they're doing it is, in years past, and we'll go into this a little bit further, but in years past, there's been 6% that has been automatically deemed to go into what they call tier 2, which means that was the bottom of the barrel. And as you scored your local programs, and those who were at the bottom, some of their money was at risk because of their lower score than the other programs in your competition. This year, there's a formula between the difference in our ARD and our bonus and this, that, and the other. It's a very, very convoluted formula that they come up with, but it's because they're basing more things on performance than they ever did. It's no longer, well, tell me what you're gonna do. Tell me what you're gonna do. Many a times in this, and if you, as you're reading the application, the detailed instructions for either a renewal project or for a new project, or when you're looking at the general NOFO of the entire competition, the cut is very clear. And if you're in the frequently asked questions that you'll get part of the packet after this meeting, and in every one of the HUD calls, they say, don't tell us what you're gonna do, tell us what you've done. So those years of prose and or I should say flowery prose and all that wonderful, projection of future plans, those days are gone. It's what have you done for me lately? Pretty much. So again, it's based on local priorities and then rankings. Of course, we have to have a fair, competitive process. This is why we start out like this every year with our application season to make sure that everybody gets the same information. This is why. I don't know what I have done here. This is really acting crazy. Hang on one second. I'm going to stop sharing for just a minute. Something's going on here with my slides. I know what I did. Yep. It's when I converted some things to PowerPoint yesterday. I'm sorry, to PDF. Okay, I think we're good to go now. This one, and I think we're good to go. Okay, let me share again. We'll be good to go. Okay, the COCs are required to have a overall COC application that talks about how we all work together and respond to homelessness in our community. The COC project applications, which is each of us that are seeking funding for a particular project in our agency, whether it be your rapid rehousing, your permanent supportive housing, for the sake of the COC for some funding to operate our HMIS system. Those and the project listing is how those are ranked, as I was saying earlier, ranked from the highest performer to the lowest performer. And in this year's competition, there are some bonuses. The DV bonus may be pulled out of the tiering. And I'm boring you with this, I'm sure. So depending on how ranks go, we may insert the DV in a completely separate tier, because most likely it will be pulled out for bonus funding, and then the other projects would then move up in the ranking. But that's something we'll be going over with our consultant from Homebase on what things look like for a perspective from funding, and making sure that the programs who are up for renewal, who have performed sufficiently, we want to make sure that they get renewed rather than get new money and they lose that. Also, I will go ahead and say right now, the HMIS application, project application will be at the bottom tier. We will not use funding or seek funding for non-housing services that might put someone who has a housing program at jeopardy. We will figure out a way to do that. So just knowing that right now. Clicker. Okay. Again, making sure that you're competitive. At this point, I hate to say it, the competitive part is what you've done over the past year. It's a little too late for that. Now you can think about it going forward, because being competitive, 90% of that is system performance and those kinds of things, which we'll go over in our scoring. It's talking about, do you take clients through coordinated entry? Are your budgets right? Are your finances right? All of those other things. So again, we're talking about it now, but as we're doing this, I know Sandy's gonna laugh at me. I always get really excited because I think, oh, well, we can do this better for next year. So starting to plan now or making changes to your program now for next year. Making sure that you're eligible for HUD funding, and we'll talk about what's eligible this year. It's no change at all from last year. And making sure that your application is completely filled out and filled out properly. This is the funding that's available this year. Our annual renewal amount, just over $1.6 million. Our DV bonus, which is actually this year 15% of our FPRN, which last year it was 10. So, and that's because there was some funding that was not able to be distributed last year and they've combined it. The COC bonus, which can be used for rapid rehousing, permanent supportive housing, joint transitional and rapid rehousing, or could be used for coordinated entry by the collaborative applicant. We are not going to seek coordinated entry dollars unless no one in the community steps up for that bonus, because we want to claim it if we can. We don't want to leave any money on the table if we don't have to.
Pat,
Yes,
excuse me, I don't want to sidetrack you, but I can't remember if I read if that could be more than one bonus. If one person has to go after the whole amount.
no, ma'am, it does not.
Okay, I was thinking I read that it could be multiple. Okay.
Yes, ma'am, it can be multiple, absolutely. Only the administrator of coordinated entry or HMIS can seek that funding. Other than if you are DV and you are paying for a comparable database, Lindsay. So just throwing that out there. So this year, for the first time ever, we have the opportunity to go just over $2 million in federal funding for our homelessness response. And yeah, it's pretty cool. If you think about that, we had an auto renewal last year. So it sounds about right, because our bonus, we weren't able to apply for our bonus for last year. So it seems about right. It's a really exciting time. This is an opportunity, and I hate to say this is an opportunity where there's no reason that we shouldn't be able to put a huge dent, not only in the by name list of those who are seeking assistance now, but having prevention and diversion going forward. And I know COC funds cannot be used for that, but if we're housing with COC funds, we can use other funds to do that. So just throwing that out there again, as we're planning, as we're going forward. And also, as I encourage everyone, or have someone from your organization to listen to this afternoon's presentation from the consultant who we said, hey, here's 5 years of our data. We want you to look at it. Tell us what we're doing well, tell us what we're not doing so well, and where do we go from here? All of this is about that community planning.
Pat, it's Lindsay. Looking at this DV bonus, can other people in the continuum apply for that?
As long as they meet the same requirements, yes.
Okay. Well, I know that'll give us a ton of money. And I don't want the community to lose it, but I also want to be responsible too. That makes any sense.
Right.
That's kind of what I was asking, Pat. Go back to that screen, can you, without messing up?
Are you trying to say I'm incompetent?
No. What I was thinking, it has the DV bonus with the rapid rehousing joint transitional. I'm wondering if there could be expansion there with joint transitional to permanent housing rapid component.
I don't know if the DV bonus can be expansion.
Okay.
But as we're talking about expansion, and it made me think about too, Lindsay, now if you're thinking about consolidation, this year may be the year for your 2 DV grants.
Absolutely.
Can I do that when I've only had one of them? I haven't had a whole year.
Oh, no.
But expansion using DV maybe I will ask the question. And again, if this year's application, if you have a question about a specific part of the application or a funding availability or whatever, in your guidebook, you'll see that there is a, you don't ask the questions through the AAQ anymore. They go specifically through the new listserv email that was set up for the applications going forward.
So I have a really, because I'm just having a brain moment. I have to do 2 applications since I can't put those together, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Sweet.
But as we go forward, we're going to talk about also the fact that most of your stuff you will be able, you will import most of your stuff from that last year or
Okay.
2 years ago and make the changes that you needed.
Okay.
Okay, not available for funding, of course, it's emergency shelter, like I said, prevention, new transitional, except when it's part of the transitional to rapid rehousing, and new supportive services only, except when it's coordinated entry, HMIS. The HUD priorities, and literally I sat here yesterday and made sure I took it from the NOFO and put it on here. Ending homelessness for all persons. The housing first approach is back. I know, and if you remember in the 19 competition, those words were almost absent. Not sure what that was about. I don't know. We didn't change our approach as a community, I don't think. Or I certainly hope not. We didn't say we did. So housing, making sure we're using housing first, reducing those barriers to folks coming into our programs, reducing unsheltered homelessness. Last year's numbers show that we've been fairly successful with doing that. We continue to be successful with doing that, but we haven't ended it, and so we'll always be working on that, but making sure that we have the capacity in our system that if someone was seeking a shelter bed, that it would be available. Part of that, and again, I keep alluding to what we're talking about this afternoon, but a huge part of that is those who are in emergency shelter turning those beds over. This is not a come and stay and live here thing. This is let us help you get situated, get out of here into permanent housing. And we're going to continue to work with you and work with you on the things that caused your homelessness to begin with. But you're not going to stay in the shelter for 60, 90, 120, 180, and some more days to just hang out here. That's a huge problem in our community. Partnering with other housing, health, and service organizations. I think I know from a community perspective, our community application or collaborative application for the COC will reflect a lot of that collaboration, at least over the past year. We've always done it just as a matter of, because Columbus is Columbus and everybody knows everybody. And if you need something, you pick up the phone and you call your friend. But make sure we put that on paper and we give ourselves credit for that. And then strengthen those relationships and make those more firm. And so they're not a handshake agreement. Sometimes we have to put some contracts or some MOUs or some documents in place just to solidify things going forward. So as time changes, turnover happens, everything else, there's a process and there's agreement in place. Talking about racial equity, well, again, one of the reasons we had our gap analysis run was to see if we were having difficulty in exiting folks to permanent residences, if it was racially equitable, and what about the returns to homelessness? What did that look like? But also the occurrence of homelessness in our community. How is it broken down based on the numbers of demographics in our community across the board? So again, that'll be a lot of that will go over this afternoon, but we have some work to do. We're not we're not as far behind as I thought we might be according to the data, but we still have some work to do. And the work we have to do is we have to do better jobs as providers of housing and services and informing the community at large that it's about prevention. If we prevented more folks from becoming homeless, our numbers would drastically turn. Prevention is the key to where we're going and improving our community. Okay, I'm gonna get off that soapbox. How can we use the funding? Obviously, is permanent supportive or permanent housing, new construction, leasing, rental assistance, acquisition, HMIS, renewal of transitional supportive services or supportive services for coordinated entry. The link on the presentation here and in all the documents that I'll be sending you over, they are live links. Everything connects. And I checked them all to make sure they're all working and going to the right page. So there's more information there. So it's not just Pat said. We have a local ranking process that I've referred to several times. Sometimes it's called a rank and review. Sometimes it's called a tiering and scoring. It's putting folks in order from Sally Sue to Billy Bob, from best performing to lowest performing. Some of the performance metrics may have nothing to do with your program. For instance, if you're a transitional program, you are not going to score well when it says do 90% of your clients or more come through coordinated entry. You're not going to score well because guess what? Transitional clients are not required to come through coordinated entry. And that's just the way it is. So taking that into consideration. But so we have a possible 106 points, and we'll go over the score sheet in just a few minutes. Score sheets are highly based on HMIS data and system performance measures. We've been doing this for a couple of years, and this is the first year that HUD has put in their scoring that there are specific sets of points that you can get for using HMIS, which they're calling objective data, and system performance measures. If 33% or more of your scoring comes from system performance measures, you can get some more points. I'd made sure it was 33.1% as of yesterday. How do we apply? The first link takes us to the general COC competition application website. You scroll down and you click on all of the programs. I'm sending you all links to all of those in an email after this. It will also come out on our website this afternoon with everything we have here and links to each of the applications, each of the manuals, each of the guidebooks. Talking about eSNAPs, that's of course the program we all use to go and do our COC application. Remembering when you go to do your application, you have to go in and do your applicant registration or your applicant profile before you go into your application. And again, it's all talked about here. The local competition information will be posted this afternoon on our website. So if you're curious about something or didn't get it or just want to show it to someone, it's always there. But also remembering that, Lindsay, this is what I mentioned earlier. Very likely you can upload or pull over much of the information for your program and then make changes as you need to for your applications. Knowing that some of the there are quite a few of the questions that have changed, but if nothing else, the general information will probably be the same. Okay, this is the HUD timeline. They're very sparse in what has to be done when. But it was released on the 18th. They said it was released on the 18th. On the 18th, they said it was there, but you couldn't actually read it to the 19th, which I thought was odd. But they're listing the 18th as the release date, so that's what we're going with. The 28th of July, they posted on the HUD website the amount of renewal that we were going to be allowed for this year's competition. On the 14th, all continuums of care must have posted their application with their consolidated application with their priority listing on their website for 2 days prior to the November 16th deadline for HUD. Again, these are the HUD deadlines, and all funds will have to be obligated by September 30th of 2023. This is the HUD deadline or timeline, and get a load of ours. Okay, so today we're talking about the application and going over the information. On the 30th, those who will be scoring the applications, the project applications, will get together and go over some training. And where to look for the information, and how the projects will be looked at across the board. The application, maybe you've already heard several of us talking about dividing up the application and doing it. That's already underway. Project applications are due 1 month and 1 day from today. By noon on October 8th, they are due. That's so that they can be scored. And I'm going to go further in the timeline, but again, we move that date back so it can be scored. Scores can be given to the initial scores or preliminary scores, and rankings can be given to the projects. The projects then have the right to appeal. They can formulate their appeal. They can submit their appeal. They can then, the appeal committee can then notify the project again of the findings or the readjustment or not, however it goes. But also that way that deadline will be, according to the HUD guidelines, the projects have to know a minimum of 30 days prior to the November 16th deadline. I'm sorry, 15 days. So 15 days. So this way, that's why we have the timeline the way it is. So if you'll notice, October 8th through 11th, the committee will get together, the scoring, the review and rank committee, panel, whatever you want to call them, will get together and the scoring individually. And then on the 12th, they'll come together. The final scoring will be done, because all that happens at that day is Jim, Bob, and Bill, which is not their names, but Jim, Bob, and Bill will come together via Zoom and or here, whichever. And I scored Andrea a 5, I scored Terry a 6, and I scored Pat a 3. And they would put together, well, Andrea, for instance, I'm sorry, the 3, actually there's 4 scores, would tell this one has a 36, that one has a 42, and this, so then they would take that and the average would be the score for that particular person. If that makes any sense. If I confuse the heck out of anybody, I'm sorry. I'll start that again. But we take the individual scores, come together, each of them gives the score verbally and in writing for the particular project. And then those scores are averaged, and that's what the project score is. On the 12th, then that's where the preliminary score is given to the agencies. That's when the appeal comes back within 3 days. After that, if Pat says, you know what, you scored me below Terry and I'm mad about it because my project was this, that, and the other. Again, I will show you and give you a copy of the appeals process and the steps that need to be gone through. It's an email explaining why, simple. Appeals, the committee then meets, goes over it, makes that decision. Then the final priority list is presented to the board and sent to all of the agencies and posted on the COC website on the 25th, which you can see is at least 15 days ahead of the November 16th deadline, as is required by HUD. Bless you. Andrea's allergic to applications. The COC, we have set a timeline for ourselves to post our completed collaborative application, our community application, consolidated application, whatever you want to call it, on our website on the 9th of November, to submit to HUD on the 12th. Trying to, number one, make sure that we're in by the deadline. Obviously, this is ahead of the November 16th deadline. But as we all are aware, whenever you're dealing with something, everyone waits to the last minute to start hitting submit. Servers get jammed, this, that, and the other. We're just trying to avoid that going forward. Or trying to get ahead of the game, and so we don't have to deal with that. So November the 12th, we anticipate hitting submit to HUD and being done with our application.
Pat, can I interject right here?
Hey,
I know, Guy. Two things. First of all, the application committee, we are not involved whatsoever in any of the review ranking, anything like that. The only involvement that we have is the fact of pulling the consolidation of the applications together. We have no control over individual applications except for if we have our own, that type of stuff. The second point I wanted to make was you can pull your information from previous applications over into your document, into your new application. It also gives you a chance once again to submit without any changes. If you do not have changes in your application, if your numbers or your units or anything, if that does not change, your dollar amount does not change, if you can hit submit with, I've did it for the last couple of years on several of mine, that if you can do that without making any changes, life is good for you at that point. So just know that you have to update your match letter at the end and make sure there's, no other documents that you need to attach, but that is not frowned upon. According to HUD, that is actually a smiley face from what my understanding is. So if you can submit without errors, without any changes, please do that.
thanks for that, Sandy. And we'll go ahead and if anybody has any questions, just scream. I'm going to go ahead and bring up the next item I had for, I got it up to twice. Let me hit share. Again, these are items that are part of the packet that you'll receive shortly after this. And we will be posting to our website. Actually, our folks in marketing got this information yesterday. So they're preparing to make sure that everything is posted this afternoon as well. But these are the frequently asked questions about each of the projects. This will be updated from time to time. This is one of the reasons we waited. This normally comes out the day of the NOFA. It was actually, you can see the NOFA came out, or the NOFO, as Sandy keeps reminding me, came out on August the 18th. The frequently asked questions didn't come out till 9/2. So they didn't, usually they anticipate some of the things that people are going to ask and have those up front. They also sometimes will say what's new and highlights for the NOFO. That has not been updated this year yet either. There will be changes that will be happening. One of the reasons we have everybody sign a letter of intent to apply is, number one, we go ahead and we ask the city manager to go ahead and sign our consolidated application, knowing that we as a continuum of care are entrusted with doing the scoring and those things in a concise manner. And we can show them from a letter of intent who intends to apply, to make sure that from a city perspective, that those entities are legitimate businesses and those kinds of things within the city. But also that letter of intent to apply then creates an email listserv. So as topics and as new information from HUD comes out, boom, 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 it just gets forwarded over. So yes, your email will be inundated, but this way everybody gets the same information the same way every time. I'm not going to sit here and read the frequently asked questions. Some of the things that Sandy was talking to about doing the upload without changes, and those are in here as well. There were some specific questions, and I'm going to scroll down to the bottom as I was talking about. Okay, here we go. Expansion. There you go. I don't know who was asked that. Lindsay, Sandy, somebody.
Hey.
Yes, there's your answer, your expansion right here. An existing renewal project is dedicated to survivors. There you go.
Okay.
There you go. So, lots of information here.
Hey, Pat, will you email this to us too?
Okay, so Lindsay wasn't listening.
I wasn't.
I will be emailing this to all the participants on this call after the meeting.
Thank you, Pat. Thank you, Pat.
Great.
I missed that.
But yeah, so this is, again, this just part of the packet. I think there are 8, actually 7 parts to the packet that you'll get. But I have them all consolidated into one nice little file for you. Application deadlines, we've talked about that briefly, but I'm gonna go ahead. Can you guys see those deadlines here? Somebody?
Yes.
Cool. So these are the deadlines we've just gone over in the presentation, but this is just literally every step of the way, everything that we're doing. The rank, as Sandy said, the rank committee, it's 3 people that will be ranking. Obviously, we wanted an odd number. One of them is a former client, one of them is a person that works at Piedmont Columbus Regional, and one of them is a director of a 501c3 that is not funded by the COC, but has been a longstanding member of the Home for Good Board. Full disclosure, it's Rick McKnight, Melanie's Close, and Marjolina Remington. So those people are going to be scoring the application. Rick will be leading the team. He will be the experienced one on the team. The other 2 are just getting started. Melanie's has experience in ranking and in scoring applications from a healthcare perspective. So that won't be new to her. And then Marjolina has the perspective of having served on the Home for Good board for about a year, but also, like I said, being a former client and knowing if we're talking real stuff here or people are just blowing smoke, and I'll be polite and leave it there. The scoring template, this is where the magic happens. And when I saved it in a PDF in your packet, you will see that page 2 gets cut off and then runs into page 3. It's all still useful. It just, I could not get the alignment to work. And at 5 o'clock yesterday afternoon, I said, the heck with it. It's all there. All the information is there. You just have to scroll down one more page. But as you can see, each of these sections has a point value, and it goes to 106. So we'll go over these briefly to make sure that we understand them. Obviously, project description is pretty self-explanatory. Talking about priorities, we talked about the priorities that were the HUD priorities, but here specifically talking about moving people from the streets or emergency shelter into permanent housing. And it's, based on HMIS data, greater than 90% of clients either directly from the streets or shelter. If you are folks like Lindsay who are working with domestic violence clients, that would need to be in a comparable database. We will get access to the aggregate data, the de-identified data, to get those that information. What percentage of your folks meet the local target populations of the chronically homeless families, DV victims, and veterans? Based on percentages, of course, you get points. Housing stability. This is one of those system performance measures we talked about. What percentage of your folks retained permanent housing for at least 12 months? Again, DV, we would get the de-identified data from their comparable database. Housing first approach, and making sure that your program is not setting up barriers to admission or enrollment. And that has to be demonstrated by including a complete intake packet with your application. Now, if you do an online intake, it is perfectly fine. Take screenshots, make it however you need to have it, whatever that needs to be. But I'm just going to be very frank. if this intake packet is not the one that you're using in the community, you still won't get those points. And I say that because in years past, we had an application that was submitted and the project turned in an intake packet and it did not match the one that they were having their clients to fill out. Needless to say, that project no longer participates in the competition. So coordinated entry, this is the one I referred to earlier, that if you're DV, it's not applicable because they don't go through coordinated entry. If you're transitional, you're not going to get the points here because you're not they're not required to go through coordinated entry. One way I think about going forward, you might want to make some adjustments to your enrollment process to make sure they're in there, and then it would serve you well going forward. But also in the next couple of years, I anticipate all programs within a continuum, whether or not they're continuum funded or not, I think they will probably end up coming through coordinated entry at some point. Average occupancy over the past year. And if you have not had a grant for a year, we would take the monthly average and project it out. Talking about budgeting, making sure it's accurate and cash amounts match, and making sure that when you say you have cash match of $100,000, well, if you have a financial statement that says you only have $25,000 in cash, that's not going to make a whole lot of sense. And that may sound ridiculous, but believe it or not, that has happened where the cash match was referred to, but the financials did not support the agency's ability and did not support the agency's ability in the next year to be able to produce that. Do you have any unresolved issues or financial situations? Also, making sure that you present with either a 990, or if you receive over $100,000 in charitable donations or grants, which is probably everybody on this call, you need to have an independent audit. And this is where that gap happened in that. Ready to proceed is if this was a new program, how quickly would you be able to go on? Or if you're, you're renewing your grant, are you ready to continue or immediately? Or within the first 3 months. Talk about, again, match donations, making sure you have the verification in the packet. Talking about system performance again, income growth for clients, really, really important, just from a make sense kind of perspective, but also from a HUD. Hey, we need to make sure that we're making people helping people to get self-sufficient and independent. So income growth, making sure we're doing that. Returns to homelessness. Oh my goodness, hold on. I got to go grab my cord. 1 second. I got it. I managed to do it without losing you. Awesome. Income growth, returns to homelessness, making sure that folks, we've had a decrease in the returns to homelessness from your project. And again, this is system performance measures and a comparable database for our DV folks. Data quality. Actually, this is one of those questions that probably next year we'll probably go even a little bit stronger on this one, because there's not an agency in the community now who's not under 5% in data quality errors. Kudos to everybody for doing that over the past year. System performance, again, when we're talking about employment and earned income, again, it's nice to get the income, but that we don't need to have our first response to any of our clients be, oh, I'm going to help you to apply for SSI. No, the first thing is we're going to apply for job and job training. And if that doesn't work, then we'll look at alternatives. So that's why we've put this in here. We're talking about income and access to employment services. Talking about our housing inventory count. That keeps happening. Talking about our housing inventory count and a utilization rate of at least 85%. Again, this is this may be a little high considering our last year with COVID and having to thin out some things and all. But I think some of those things will be taken into consideration by the scoring committee. But that was our base that we'd established for occupancy. HMIS participation or comparable database for our DV folks. COC participation in the past calendar year. And having a rep on at least one committee of the COC and attending those meetings in the past year. Any questions about the scoring while I grab something to drink? There goes Sandy.
No.
All right, let's go on to this financial declaration statement. Again, this will be in your packet. Print it, sign it, scan it, and you'll submit it back as part of your packet to the COC through eSnaps. It'll be part of your attachments. So saying that these financial statements that you're giving are correct under perjury of law, you're attesting to that. And unfortunately, yes, we had to do a declaration statement because, you know, the warnings on the cup at McDonald's that says hot, that only happened because someone sued them. So we unfortunately have to put lots of signatures and lots of forms in place because just to make sure that everyone understands they have to follow the rules. Okay, we talked about the appeals. The appeal process, again, very simple. And it's talking about if you were rejected and don't feel like something that it was right, or I'm saying you're rejected or reduced, or you don't like your scoring or whatever, write the appeal within 3 business days of getting the notification, which off the top of my head, I can't remember the date that was. I think it was the 15th. Yes, 12th. It was the 12th. Your appeal is due by the 15th. Yes. The 12th is when you will get the final note, your formal notification. And we will hear all appeals, make a final funding decision with the board or with the scoring committee. And it will be, as I said before, which is it will be more than 15 days from the date of the date the NOFO is due. So again, why we put the dates in place the way we do is to make sure we're compliant with the deadlines that HUD has set up for us. So email to my email address and it gets passed to the scoring committee for review. Any questions about appeal? This is actually a copy of the packet you're going to get. And I was hoping, you know what? I didn't put your checklist on here. Give me 1 second. Let me pull up the checklist. That's what's missing here. This is what's supposed to be there. Let me share this with you. This is what is supposed to be at the end. It will also be in your packet. Here we go. This is a checklist of everything you need to include in your application. I'm a big proponent of checklists. I actually made a checklist to remind myself of everything I have to do before this meeting this morning, just to make sure, because I never hit record on time. So, you know, oops. So any questions about anything we've gone over so far before I get you folks? I'm going to pull up the intent to apply really quickly. Stop sharing this real quick. I'm gonna pull up the
Make a
intent to
statement
apply.
about all of those documents on the checklist.
Do what, ma'am?
All of the documents on the checklist you said have to be submitted in eSnaps. If we have multiple projects, can we submit at one time
Yes, ma'am.
or with?
Okay, let me go ahead and share this screen. Okay, this has all of our projects for renewal. And Danielle, I know you're the representing Shelter Plus Care today. There's that program for the funding of 323, House of Time, Transitional 235. Sandy, your Family Matters is 361. Let me see if I can freeze this one. I'm going to let you guys look at your amounts for applying. Let me move this thing. Let me freeze this. Freeze the first column. And what I'll do is I'll move this on over for you so you can see your amounts. If you agree and intend to apply for these renewals, I'll need you to put in the chat your name and organization with intend to apply, or yes, I will apply, or something to that effect. Again, I will attach this to this form. We will scan it, and that way we'll have documentation. Miss Andrea, you get to sign my piece of paper. So I'm gonna get that from Miss Andrea. Okay, so thank you, Sandy. Thank you, Lindsay. Again, the intent to apply serves a number of things. Number one, we can put this together with our request for certificate of consistency with the city's consolidated plan, so that the city manager can go ahead and sign off on our certificate for inclusion in our application, because without that certificate, our application will not even be, thank you there, Danielle, will not be included. And then this also put together the listserv of those who will be sending out all of the information in reference to this year's application as more information comes available. So I think everybody has done their intent to apply. I'm checking my checklist. Don't laugh at me. Okay, well, I think I have checked everything off my list of the things that I had to make sure that I did. To make sure that we have met all of our guidelines and our criteria. Any questions about how we go from here, where we go from here? Is everybody signed up to get updates from HUD about the competition this year? Attend any of the, I know last week I attended the first, I think, of the HUD office hours for the NOFO. I didn't hear a whole heck of a lot, other than the fact that system performance and housing first are going to be, as we go forward in the next couple of years, are going to be more and more and more and more important. Coordinated entry and cooperation and collaboration with coordinated entry by programs is going to be more and more and more important. So again, we're doing the application this year for what we've done over the past year. And I mean, of course, the past year has been an anomaly in itself, but we still managed to serve people and serve them well, and our numbers continue to go in the right direction. So we have a really good story to tell, and let's all make sure that we remember how we worked to get through the past year, because that's going to be a very, very important part of telling our story. To see that, we may not have done this, but we were responding to the unique needs of our community and how we were doing that. Everyone has indicated their intent to apply. That is going for renewal. Heather, if you or Safe House has, even if you think you guys might be applying, if you would put that in the chat, that way I could just include that organization. That's not requiring that you do so, but it would be obviously a new project, but we could include that in our list of projects or organizations in our notice to the city manager for our certificate of consistency. So if you think that you guys will be applying in this year.
Put it
Okay,
out there.
I see it now. Okay, cool. All right. Wonderful. So I have nothing else. Any questions, concerns, or anything else going forward? Danielle, will you be the one exclusively working on the grant this year, or do I need to continue to keep Libby in the loop?
If you don't mind keeping Libby in the loop to some degree, but I'll be the main person.
I'm sorry, I couldn't understand you, hon.
I said, if you can keep Libby in the loop, that'd be great, but I will be the main person.
Okay, cool, cool. So I'll
Thank
just put
you.
I'll put the both of you down then,
Yes.
and
thank you.
then in the email group.
Okay.
Perfect. Any other questions? All right, everybody has signed in. I'm
Hey, Pat.
actually, yes,
I'm guessing that as we go through this, if we have questions, we can reach out to you as we're doing it.
absolutely, absolutely, you can. And also the, when I respond to questions, unless it's something that is very, that some other agency would not need to know about a specific client or whatever, but if it's general program or application questions, I normally respond to that person and copy everybody else
Okay.
again, so everybody gets
That's
the
what I
same.
thought. I mean, I knew that's how you've done it in the past. I just know.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I'm just trying to save my chat here, and it's not. Okay, any other questions?
No, ma'am.
All right, well, if there's nothing else, guys, we're gonna skedaddle out of here. And you can have back an extra hour of your day. Anybody needs anything, don't hesitate to holler. Again, I will be sending out the package to each of the participants probably within the next 30 minutes. And then the postings will be on our website this afternoon for everyone to see going forward. And any updates will be made there, and as well as in your email. That's it, guys. Have a good one.
Bye,
Hey,
Andrea.
guys.
I miss your beautiful.
Much.
I don't know why the chat's not letting me save it. Normally you can go right over here. Just meeting information. Just view.